Hello, welcome. Please come in. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. My name is Marilyn. I'm so delighted that you're joining me to share this special evening. Tonight, if you'll allow me, I'll be your host to commemorate a very special celestial event that people have been celebrating for thousands and thousands of years. Why on earth, you're probably wondering, is she going to do this? Please let me explain. I'm doing this because I learned how to eat so that I dodged the diabetes bullet and so that my health is now thriving all through nutrient-dense foods as my only medication. And I want you to be able to do that too. Some years back, I was diagnosed as clinically obese and pre-diabetic. These were quite alarming diagnoses to hear. I knew people that had diabetes. In fact, I have had relatives that died from complications of diabetes. My medical doctors immediately started prescribing medication. As much as I wanted to somehow reverse these diagnoses and return to health, I was so hesitant to start down the medication path because it seemed to me that medications merely masked the symptoms for some time, but didn't reverse the situation. I sensed that there had to be an answer. But at the time, I had no idea what to do. I tried losing weight the old-fashioned way by cutting calories. At first, it seemed I was having some success. I lost some weight, but my medical factors like cholesterol and triglycerides were still troublesomely high. Plus, eventually, I started regaining the weight. I consulted every type of doctor possible. Was it my thyroid? My hormones? What was wrong with me? I had no luck getting answers that way. So I scoured the internet, which is a bit like trying to get a drink of water from a fire hydrant, as they say. But with considerable persistence, I found some preeminent doctors and scientists that had taken the time to describe solutions in books and online that really helped me. The reading was not easy for me. I had to take notes and I kept trying to connect the dots because, at least for me, the full answers that I needed didn't seem to be found through a single source. But I finally succeeded. Indeed, I've trimmed my weight by over 50 pounds. I've slashed my triglycerides, bad cholesterol, blood pressure, and A1C levels all to within normal, all with nutrient-dense whole foods as my only medication. And notably, because of some extremely serious back surgeries and some neurological issues, I had to accomplish all that without very much exercise. I wouldn't recommend that course to anybody else, but that's the way I had to do it. But my researching, reading, and learning processes to figure out all that were quite long and convoluted. I want to dramatically shorten that path for you by summarizing what I've learned. So the goal of our commemorating this special event together will be to serve as a curtain opener to your being able to dodge the diabetes bullet if you need to do that, and begin your own path to thriving good health as soon as possible, all with nutrient-dense whole foods. But first, some background about this special event. In our modern terms, we call this event that we'll be observing tonight the winter solstice, but it has been referred to for thousands of years as Yalda, meaning the longest night. Yalda is actually an observance of an astronomical event that marks both the shortest day and the longest night of the year. This happens each year when our Earth's axis is tilted farthest from the sun. That typically happens right around December 21st in the northern hemisphere and around June 20th, 21st in the southern hemisphere. This event signifies the official start of winter, and although it accompanies the shortest day of the year, it simultaneously marks the turning point where the days gradually begin to lengthen and the nights begin to shorten, a new beginning. I want to share the celebration of this event with you in order to allow you to peek back into ancient times to see the innate food and eating wisdom that ancient people had, and at the same time hopefully serve as your own new beginning toward vibrant health. My goal for all my dear viewers is that you thrive, to share the things that the ancients knew so many thousands of years ago, Please let me explain how these people celebrated this annual event. Beginning thousands and thousands of years ago, family and friends would gather together at someone's home on the cold first night of winter to enjoy the sublime warmth and comfort of a Corsi and the convivial spirit and conversation of treasured companions fueled by the best treats the earth had to offer. And so they would settle in under the generous blankets of the Corsi, surrounded by their most trusted and valued companions, snacking on the most nutritious comfort food ever known. So they would enjoy an ancient all-nighter to stay with each other until the next morning to usher in a new beginning. In preparation for this big event, the host of the evening would construct a Corsi. To make the Corsi, the host would cover a low table, and they would put underneath the table a small tray of smoldering embers. And I'll show you that. Only my little tray isn't going to actually have smoldering embers in it because this is Southern California and we're having unusually warm weather this year. The host would place carpets and cushions on the floor surrounding the small table for people to sit on, and would place cushions around surrounding walls or furniture for people to lean back on. The host would gather all kinds of treats to feed their guests. The treats would be washed and prepared for presentation on top of the Corsi. After the Corsi had been constructed and set with the host's finest servingware and the night's special treats, the guests would arrive. Each person would sit on the floor cushions and would slip their feet and legs under the covers of the Corsi. They would stretch their legs out under the covers, just far enough so they would be warm and comfortable, but not so close to the heat that they would disturb the smoldering embers. They would lean back on the supporting cushions and furniture and settle in for the longest night of the year. With the smoldering embers and the body warmth of all the guests' legs and feet, the Corsi would emanate just enough heat to create the coziest imaginable, most exquisite warmth and comfort for the Corsi's guests. The magnificent hospitality, companionship, and comfort, as well as the scrumptious snacks from one such Shabbayalda celebration many decades ago, is one of the fondest and most cherished memories of my life. And yet it took many years for me to realize that the gracious ancient custom that I had enjoyed had been fueled by the most advanced nutrition known both to ancient and modern times. So I hope you'll stay with me and let me describe the amazing spread of treats that the host would provide. To fuel the conviviality of the guests and their delightful conversations, stories, and enjoyment all through the longest night of the year until the next morning.
So in order to prepare for this big event, the host of the evening would construct a Corsi. To make the Corsi, the host would cover a low table, something like this coffee table. The ancient people would place a small tray filled with smoldering embers under the table, something a little bit like this. I'm not actually using smoldering embers because I don't really know how they did this so that they didn't set everything on fire. And plus I have wooden floors. And not only that, it's Southern California and we're having unusually warm weather this year. Please don't try it with smoldering embers. Host would then place carpets and cushions on the floor surrounding the small table for their esteemed guests to sit on, and would place cushions against surrounding walls or furniture for their guests to lean back on. Then, over the table, the host would begin layering layer after layer of blankets and comforters and all things that would help to keep their guests warm and comfortable. Finally, on top of all the layers of blankets, the host might place a serving cloth, such as this. The host would then adorn the top of the corsi with beautiful functional decorations and the host's best servingware, as well as with many types of the world's most nutritious comfort foods. Candles would be placed strategically on the corsi and around the room. The host would find a good place on top of the corsi for their samovar, at least in years where there was such a thing, for indeed the origins of this celebration predate these devices. Copious amounts of black tea would be prepared and saved in the host's best teapots and kept warm atop the samovar. The guests' best tea glasses and tiny tea saucers would be stationed for tea service. The samovar would be placed in a position near where the host would sit so that the tea could be served and refills provided without the host or anyone else having to withdraw unnecessarily from the exquisite warmth and comfort of the corsi. The host would have washed and prepared a plentiful selection of seasonal and special fruits and nuts, some with special symbolic significance. The fruits would include watermelons, pomegranate, persimmon, quince, oranges, dates, raisins, and other dried fruits, and nuts that would include walnuts, chestnuts, and pistachios. Notably, while persimmons and pomegranates are fall-winter fruits, the ancient people that celebrated this event had ingenious methods for preserving fresh fruits like watermelon through the summer months until the cold winter for serving at Shabbat Yelda. At some point during the night, the host would carve the watermelon and would serve each guest a piece. Tea and other snacks would be served throughout the longest night. In such comfort and fueled by such delightful snacks, the evening's guests would share stories, recite poems, hear each other's plans and concerns, and would stay awake all during the longest winter night. Beginning with the following dawn, each day would grow progressively longer, each night progressively shorter, until spring blossomed forth. So you may still be wondering, why on earth is she telling us all this? Well, I'm explaining this charming ancient custom so that we can turn our focus to the treats that these ancient hosts served to their most treasured guests to fuel their conviviality through the longest night of the year. Importantly, they didn't serve their guests with nutrient-sparse, creamy, sugary pastries or salty fried puffs of nothingness. Oh no, quite the contrary. The Shabbat Yalda Corsi was spread with the most nutritious food known then and finally realized to be so by modern science. Consider the incredible nutritional content of what these ancient people considered comfort food. For example, that pomegranates figured prominently in this ancient spread. Now let's fast forward to modern times and consider that POM, perhaps the most widely known brand of pomegranate juice, was just introduced a little over 20 years ago in this country. Imagine that. Thousands and thousands of years after these Shabbat Yalda celebrations were first held, modern civilization finally became aware of these ancient superfruits. Pomegranates are now recognized by our modern scientific community as nutrient-dense, low-calorie fruits that are packed with fiber, antioxidants, vitamins C, K, and B vitamins and minerals, and they're low in fat and have no cholesterol, making them an incredible choice for heart health, anti-inflammation, and general nutrition. How much of all that did the ancients know? Okay, so next, consider the nuts on the table. Walnuts, chestnuts, they're all nutrient-dense foods. They're packed with healthy fats, protein, fiber, B vitamins, vitamin E, and minerals such as magnesium, phosphorus, and manganese. With their beneficial antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds that support brain and heart health, walnuts are now recognized thousands and thousands of years after the early Shabi Yalda celebrations by the modern scientific community as a fantastic nutritional choice. How did the ancients know to include these nuts on their coursey spread? Other foods now recognized as superfoods present on these tables included dried mulberries and the humble date.
In this introductory episode, I've tried to recreate an authentic Shabi Yalda celebration, including a coursey and its traditional adornments for our modern enjoyment. I hope I've done the event justice. In addition, I've also endeavored to show how some of the foods that our modern scientific community has finally recognized to be superfoods were well known and long treasured by ancient people thousands and thousands of years ago. And perhaps more importantly, I hope I've also shown how nutrient-sparse foods such as processed or artificial sweets, creamy or sugary candies or pastries were completely absent from these ancient Shabi Yalda spreads. I deeply hope that you've enjoyed this little journey with me back in time and possibly gained some insight about the value of eating nutrient-dense whole foods. I've learned this information as part of my own personal journey toward health. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, just a mere mortal trying to figure out how to eat to be as healthy as possible. I would be delighted to share what I've learned with you and hope that it would help you as much as it's helped me. To that end, I'm launching my own YouTube channel under the name of Dodge the Diabetes Bullet and Thrive with Vibrant Health. With my YouTube channel, I will share with you what I've learned from my own extensive reading of those previously mentioned preeminent experts, as synthesized with my own efforts to return myself to health. My video episodes will include not only nutritional information, but cooking, eating, and even shopping as well. I will give you links to the preeminent authors that I have found so incredibly helpful in my journey, and I'll provide you with other links, such as to products that I have used and recipes that I've followed. I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can continue this journey together. By the way, just in case you're new to YouTube, your subscription to my Dodge the Diabetes Bullet and Thrive with Vibrant Health channel will not cost you a single thing. Rather, your subscribing will merely serve as a way for us to stay together on this journey and for YouTube to grade my value. Your subscription with notification would be a further option that would additionally serve to notify you as soon as I have uploaded new episodes. As a closing note, I find it at once so appropriate and yet so ironic that one of the most ancient traditions still celebrated in this world serves as a springboard for our journey together toward vibrant health using some of today's most modern social media technology. I hope you will join me on this journey. To all my dear viewers, from this night forward, may your nights grow shorter, may your days grow longer. May your health and prosperity multiply abundantly until spring blossoms forth in your hearts, and may summer abundance thrive in your lives. With warmest wishes from our home to your home. Happy Shabi Yalda.